If the mob boss you worked for ordered you to take out your brother, what would you do? Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is a crime thriller from 2022 titled Burn. Mob boss Gino Pinero's right-hand man Seth walks in a bedroom and discovers the dead body of the boss's wife, Laurel, lying dead covered with blood. Seth tries to stop the boss from coming in, but he enters anyway. He comes around the bed and stares at his wife lying there dead. Later, Max, another one of Pinero's men, receives a phone call from Seth, who tells him that they need to talk, that it must be in person, refusing to tell him what it's about. Max starts driving down through a long, rocky road in the middle of nowhere to find Seth already there waiting for him. Seth removes his gun, signaling for Max to do the same, but Max doesn't trust Seth, so he keeps his gun on his waist. Before they start talking, Seth takes a moment to make fun of Max's Prius, telling him his grandmother drives a Prius. Max tells him he's socially and economically irresponsible as they both laugh. Seth goes on to tell Max that his brother screwed up big time this time and that there is a contract out on his life for killing the boss's wife. Seth tells Max where his brother Vince is hiding. Max drives off and enters the parking lot of a motel and starts looking for his brother. He finds the room and bangs on the door and tells Vince he can't help him if he doesn't open the door. As Max enters the room, he notices Vince has already finished a bottle of whiskey. Tells Vince that Seth informed him of his whereabouts. Vince is covered in blood and nervously shaking while holding his gun. Max calms him down and tells him he's here to help. Tells Vince they rushed the girl to the hospital and she didn't make it. He also tells him about the contract out on his life, that he has 2 days before Seth comes hunting for him. Max asks Vince to tell him what happened. Vince starts telling Max how he didn't mean to kill her, that they were in love. He tells him he met her at a bar one night when he was out with his friend Bobby. She was there with Gino Pinero when Vince and Laurel noticed each other from across the room. Bobby tries to stop him, letting him know that he will get himself killed looking at the boss's wife. Max tells Vince that the only thing Pinero loved more than money was his wife. She was his prized possession. Vince tells him how she came up to him asking for matches, and they just hit it off. Max asks him why he did it, and Vince explains how she wanted to break up with him before Pinero found out. Unable to convince her otherwise, he stabbed her. Vince tells Max if he had put in a word for him to work for Pinero back then, that none of this would have happened. Max, angered by Vince blaming him for her death, tells him he was always messed up, causing problems, and he didn't trust him to put in a word. Max hands Vince some clean clothes and tells him to shower and get cleaned up while he goes for food. As Max gets in his car, he starts having a flashback of an earlier time. Laurel is approaching him, asking him if he's her driver. He says yes, and the two introduce themselves. He remembers how he used to drive her around. Remembers the day at the bar when Laurel got the keys from Seth because she wanted Max to drive her home. Max tries to avoid it as he's already noticing Laurel's attraction towards him, but she's stubborn and walks to Pinero and lets him know that Max will be driving her home. They both pause to look at Max, making him very nervous. On the way to her condo, Laurel starts asking questions about his personal life and girlfriend, making Max uncomfortable. Once they arrive, Laurel invites him upstairs for a drink. Max rejects her, reminding her she's the boss's wife. Laurel tells him to relax, it's just a drink, so Max agrees to have one drink with her and leave. As they're in the balcony having small talk, Laurel ambushes him with a kiss. Max hesitates but is unable to resist the temptation. The next morning he comes home to find Seth let himself into his apartment. They have coffee and Seth starts asking where Max was last night. Max plays it off, asking why Seth is in his apartment in the first place. Seth tells him they have a job to do for the boss. They go to a house in a suburban neighborhood. Seth tells Max he must take out the guy in the house. Max goes in and gets the job done and they speed off. Max gets dropped off home, and before he's able to settle down, he hears a knock on the door. He opens to find Laurel at his doorstep. Max tells Laurel they need to stop doing this before the boss finds out and they both end up dead, but Laurel once again starts flirting and things remain the same. Then we see Max returning back to Vince's motel with food. As Max and Vince start talking about Laurel, Max has another flashback. In bed with Laurel, he remembers how they used to hang out, the conversations they used to have. He snaps out of his memory and rushes to the bathroom to wash up. Staring in the mirror, he continues remembering Laurel, bringing her breakfast in bed. Laurel tells him no one's ever brought her breakfast in bed. Laurel tells him about her dream, how they didn't have to hide their relationship from anyone anymore. She tells him she would leave Pinero for him if that's what he wanted. Max tells her how Pinero would whack both of them. Laurel tells Max she has fallen in love with him. Max tells her he loves her too. Max snaps out of it when Vince bangs on the door to see if he's alright. He gets out and tells Vince they need to head to Las Vegas until they sort things out. He tells Vince to gather his things while he pulls the car in the front. As Max heads to the car, he drifts away in his memories again, this time remembering being around a restaurant table, angry and jealous seeing Laurel in Pinero's arms. As Laurel heads to the restroom, Pinero thanks Max for the job he did for him earlier. He mentions how Laurel wants Max to be her driver and no one else. Pinero tells him if he didn't know any better, he would think something is up with them. Max gets really nervous and assures Pinero that he would never do anything like that. Pinero laughs and tells him that he knows he's not that stupid. Later, as Max gets up to leave, Laurel wants to know why Max is acting strange. Max tells her how he doesn't like seeing her snuggling with Pinero. She reminds him that they are married after all. Max, angered and jealous, tells Laurel that he's taken off. As Laurel shouts after Max, Seth enters the room telling them how they sound like an old married couple. He tells Max that the boss wants him to drive her home tonight. As Laurel goes to retrieve her belongings, Seth starts smiling and laughing, hinting Max that he knows what's going on. The next morning, Max meets up with Seth at Pinero's bar. He mentions last night and assures Seth that there's nothing going on between them. Seth tells him that's between him and the big man's wife and his lips are sealed. As Max is leaving, Seth tells him to do a better job of being discreet. Max heads straight over to Laurel's house and starts explaining to her that Seth knows about them, that they have to stop seeing each other. Laurel tells him that he's being paranoid like all the other times in the past. She tries to hug Max, but Max tells her he's not being paranoid and it ends now. Max pulls the car in the front and tells Vince to hang on while he loads the trunk. Vince wants him to wait while he uses the bathroom real quick. As Max is loading the trunk, he sees Seth's car pulling up in the parking lot of the motel. He rushes in to get Vince. As he tells Vince to hurry up, Max sees the messages in Vince's phone. Messages from Seth asking if the job is done. He then plays his message, hearing Seth's voice telling Vince that Max is on the way. As Max starts realizing what's really going on, the scene changes to Seth and Vince having a meeting. Seth is telling Vince how he's always wanted a job and now he is finally going to get his chance. He tells Vince to come for a meeting with the boss the next day and not be late. The following day, Vince is having a sit-down with Pinero. He shows Vince pictures of his brother Max with his wife. Pinero tells Vince that in order to work for him, he must kill his brother Max and Pinero's wife, Laurel. He tells Vince to get close to his wife, which is how Vince's affair with Laurel began. When Laurel wants to break up with Vince, he shows her the pictures of her and Max and tells Laurel that Pinero knows everything. As Laurel starts to panic, Max starts stabbing her. We come back to the scene in the beginning of the movie with Pinero walking in to see his wife lying dead in bed. He orders Seth to make the call to Vince and give him the green light to kill Max. Now that Max is aware of what's really going on, he inspects the room for possible advantages when confronting his brother. As Vince comes out flashing his gun, Max wants to know why his brother is doing this. Vince tells him that the old man knows about their affair, and he's been ordered to take them both out. Max reminds him that he came here to help him, that he doesn't have to do this. Vince, very angry, tells him how he's never helped him out. He orders Max to turn around. When Vince comes forward to take the shot, Max pulls the cord on the lamp, killing the lights and shooting Vince on the chest at the same time. As he's staring at his little brother dying, he hears Seth opening the motel door. Max comes out to shoot, but Seth is gone and there's nobody around. The movie ends with Max just driving off into the night, unable to get Laurel out of his head. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more movies.